Every meal an Ottoman Sultan ate was tasted by someone else first. Not because of poison, not exactly. Because if the taster died, that was useful information, and if he didn't, the meal was now spiritually clean. Either way, the Sultan ate second. The Ottoman Sultan was, on paper, the most powerful man in the world. He ruled 3 continents. He commanded armies of hundreds of thousands. He had absolute legal authority over 25 million people. And yet, his life was governed by rules so strict that he could barely move without breaking one. Today, we're going through 20 of them. Rules that were absolute law inside the palace. Rules that, today, sound like someone made them up. If you like the strange corners of history, subscribe. New episode every week. Number 1. No one could look the Sultan in the eye. Not foreign ambassadors, not his viziers, not even most of his own family. The penalty for direct eye contact in a formal setting ranged from a beating to execution, depending on who you were and how the Sultan was feeling. Number 2. When you were presented to the Sultan, you didn't shake his hand. You kissed the hem of his robe. Foreign monarchs sent representatives instead of coming themselves, specifically to avoid the ritual. Coming in person and refusing to kiss the robe was the diplomatic equivalent of a declaration of war. Number 3. The Sultan's barber held one of the most sensitive positions in the empire. He held a sharpened blade inches from the most important throat in the world, every single day. Barbers were vetted for years. Some lived inside the palace for life. They were paid like generals. Number 4. The Sultan's breath was a state matter. A team of court physicians inspected his mouth daily. They prescribed mastic gum, clove oil, and rosewater rinses. Bad breath in the presence of a foreign delegation could embarrass the empire, so it became a job for several full-time professionals to prevent it. Number 5. The Sultan was required to pray 5 times a day, like every Muslim. But because he was also the Caliph, the spiritual leader of Sunni Islam, missing a prayer was not just a personal failure. It was a political one. Sultans who skipped prayers regularly were considered illegitimate. Several were deposed partly for it. Number 6. The Sultan woke before dawn. Every day. There was no sleeping in. Ever. The first prayer of the day was at sunrise, and the Sultan's whole household ran on his schedule. Some sultans went to bed at 8 in the evening just to handle the wake-up time. Number 7. The Sultan could not walk anywhere inside the palace without his personal guard. A specific unit called the Solaks always accompanied him, 2 on each side. They were left-handed archers, deliberately recruited so they could shoot toward the Sultan's right side without crossing their bodies. The empire engineered a guard system around the position of the Sultan's own arms. Number 8. The Sultan did not sign his name, ever. He used a tugra, a unique calligraphic seal designed for him personally at the start of his reign. Each tugra contained the Sultan's name, his father's name, and the phrase, "the eternally victorious." Forging one was a capital offense. Studying how to read one was a respected academic specialty. Now here's where it gets strange. Number 9. The Sultan usually ate alone. Sharing a meal with another human being implied equality, and the Sultan had no equals. Even when foreign kings visited Istanbul, they were rarely invited to dine with the Sultan himself. They ate in separate rooms, with messages passed between them. Lonely is the wrong word, but not entirely wrong. Number 10. The Sultan was not supposed to laugh in public. Smiling was acceptable. Laughing was undignified. A sultan who laughed openly at court was seen as losing control. Several sultans were criticized in chronicles for laughing too easily. One was deposed partly for being too jovial. Number 11. Officially, the Sultan did not drink alcohol. Islam forbade it, and he was the caliph. Unofficially, many sultans drank in private, sometimes heavily. The empire pretended not to notice. When a sultan died from drinking too much, it happened more than once. The official cause of death was always something else. Number 12. The Sultan could not accept a gift directly. Anything presented to him was received by a designated official, examined for poison or insult, logged in the treasury, and then either given to the Sultan later or quietly added to imperial stores. A gift you handed to the Sultan in person might never reach him. Number 13. Ottoman Sultans were not crowned. There was no crown. Instead, a new Sultan was girded with the sword, a ceremony at the tomb of Eyüp Sultan, a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, buried just outside Istanbul. The sword was placed around the Sultan's waist by the leader of a Sufi order. The whole empire watched to see if he stumbled walking out. If he did, it was an omen. Number 14. The Sultan had to consult his mother on most major decisions. Not as a courtesy, as policy. The Valide Sultan held formal political power, and ignoring her advice was seen as both disrespectful and politically reckless. Several sultans who tried to rule without their mother's input were quickly forced to reverse course. Number 15. The Sultan was required to attend Friday prayers in public. This was the one moment each week when ordinary citizens could see him, or at least see the carriage he arrived in. Skipping Friday prayer was politically catastrophic. It signaled illness, weakness, or absence from the capital, any of which invited coup attempts. Number 16. The Sultan could not be alone, ever. Even in his private apartments, an attendant was always present, technically to assist him, actually to make sure he hadn't been replaced by an imposter or killed in his sleep. The fear of imposters was not theoretical. There were several genuine pretender uprisings in Ottoman history. The constant supervision was the empire's defense against them. Number 17. Every coin the Sultan spent was recorded. The Sultan had access to enormous personal wealth, but he was not free to spend it however he wanted. The privy treasury kept ledgers of everything: clothes, gifts, building projects, charity. Sultans who spent wildly were criticized as wasteful. Those who hoarded were called miserly. Walking the line was a full-time job for the imperial accountants. Number 18. The Sultan slept with guards in the room, not outside the door, in the room. The history of sultans being strangled in their sleep by their own brothers was, by the 1500s, long enough that the precaution was permanent. Sleeping alone, even with the empress, was simply not done. Number 19. A sultan could be deposed. It was, technically, against Ottoman law. In practice, it happened about every other generation. The mechanism was usually a council of religious scholars issuing a fatwa declaring the sultan unfit, followed by janissaries enforcing it. From 1617 to 1730, almost every sultan ended his reign through deposition rather than death. Number 20. And after deposition, this is the strangest part. Many sultans simply moved back into the cage. The same gilded apartments they had grown up in. The same wooden screens, the same view of the gardens. Some lived another 20 years there, quiet, comfortable, watched. The empire's mercy was to let them keep breathing. The rest was up to them. The Ottoman Sultan was supposed to be the most powerful man on earth. In practice, he could not walk where he wanted, eat what he wanted, sleep where he wanted, marry whom he wanted, or sign his own name. Power in the Ottoman world came with rules so dense that they functioned as a second cage. If you want more empires the history books skip past, subscribe.